Hello, everyone. This is Harry with This Week in Pro Football, Episode 2, Part 1. It is Thursday, November 2nd, 2017. Beginning Week 9 tonight on the NFL Network and I believe CBS, a game between the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. Very important game in the AFC East, especially for the Bills, who have a 5-2 record and are looking to stay as close as possible to the Patriots, who have the same record, quote unquote, or are a game in front, I believe. So they want to stay as close to them as possible. The Jets have not played as bad as people thought that they would have, which is good for Todd Bowles, their head coach, who's a good guy and a good coach. I definitely think if he ever lost his job with the Jets, he would be named somebody's defensive coordinator right away. But it's good for him that they're playing so well. They want to get back to 500. Remember, this week we have quite a few teams that are off this week on their bye week. The Bears, the Browns, the Chargers, my own Vikings, the Patriots, and the Steelers. And especially those last three teams, including the Chargers also, you probably have a good majority of their players on your fantasy team and want to make sure that your lineup is properly set. I know I'm going through that right now because, unfortunately, the big news today, actually, two big things happened today. Earlier this morning, Andrew Luck has been placed on IR and won't play at all for 2017, unfortunately, for the Colts, and probably, unfortunately, for his head coach, Chuck Pagano. I have a feeling, I hate to say it, there will be a regime change there. As for the head coach, they already have the general manager ousted. It's a new general manager. He's going to want to bring in his own coach. So unless things change dramatically for the Colts and they were to make the playoffs and probably win a playoff game or two, Chuck Pagano, unfortunately, will probably not be their head coach next year. And then a little while ago, we learned that Deshaun Watson, super rookie, on track to be the NFL Rookie of the Year, maybe even in the MVP race in the NFL, a quarterback of the Houston Texans, had hurt his ACL. He'll be out for the year. Very unfortunate. I have him on one of my fantasy teams, and I'm racing right now to try to replace him, but not lose him because I'm in a dynasty league, and I don't want to lose Deshaun Watson, that's for sure. I think Kareem Hunt, another guy this year, a few others have proven a lot so far this year that they're the future of the NFL. And it's just when I heard about this injury earlier today, Deshaun Watson going through like a walkthrough practice, it took me back to months ago, at the beginning of last season, when the Vikings lost Teddy Bridgewater for the season. It was very, very tough. It was emotional. And I know that those thoughts ran through my mind. So good luck, Deshaun. I hope you're ready to go next year. This week in pro football started off the beginning of the week with the end of the trading deadline, which was Halloween at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And we had more than a few trades that affect fantasy. We have Jay Ajayi, Dolphins running back, who I would think would have had a better year than he's had right now, but Dolphins had some injuries, unfortunately. Looked terrible last Thursday night at Baltimore, a game I thought that they were going to win, and that people like him would have a coming-out party. But instead it was Baltimore who had the coming-out party. 40-0 loss. Well, Jay Ajayi apparently didn't get along with Dolphins coaching, or at least for right now didn't get along, and he's been shipped out to the Philadelphia Eagles, of all teams, the best record in the NFL, 7-1, and now will probably be their starting running back before it's all said and done, with Carson Wentz, the quarterback, and just a good young team around him, both offensive and defensively. I would think that Jay Ajayi will eventually be a top-tier running back. Again. But this may take a week or two to get him going. And they still have LeGarrette Blount, so that is helpful in that case. Of course, we had the New England Patriots trade Jimmy Garoppolo, their backup quarterback, and looked like heir apparent to Tom Brady, traded to the San Francisco 49ers for their second-round pick, which as it stands right now, of course, we have half a season to go, and the 49ers, unfortunately for them, are 0-8. looks like that could be the 33rd or 34th pick at the top, very top of the second round. So that will be very interesting. I think right now, if I remember correctly, the Patriots now have 3 picks in the top 35 in next year's draft, in the 2018 draft. Again, Bill Belichick's always thinking. And the only thing that I would say is that if anything happens to Tom Brady, they could be in huge, huge trouble. Matter of fact, the starter for the 49ers this year was Brian Hoyer. He is now the Patriots' backup quarterback. He was released by the 49ers, and now he's signed with the Patriots. So that in itself, a veteran presence should be helpful, but he's not Tom Brady. So I pray nothing happens to Tom Brady, or that team could be in very, very big trouble. For the 49ers, that's a fantastic trade for them. I really believe it. Now, keep in mind, Jimmy Garoppolo would have been a free agent. So let me back up a little bit and say the Patriots did great by getting a second-round pick from the 49ers. And they would have, if they waited after the season, they probably would have got nothing because, again, he would have been a free agent. Now the 49ers have half a year to decide if he's going to be their quarterback of the future, or if Kirk Cousins actually goes to free agency next year in 2018, they could possibly sign him, or they can go for, let's say, possibly Josh Rosen, UCLA quarterback, who more than likely will be declaring for the draft. He's a junior. There's no 100% guarantee, but I think he's leaning that way. And there's been strong comparisons between Rosen and Eli Manning, and those are pretty good comparisons when you think of the career Eli Manning has had. I have a feeling that Jimmy Garoppolo will eventually, in the end, either be franchise tagged by the 49ers and/or he will sign a long-term deal with them. I think that the 49ers more than likely will see enough by the end of December, the end of the NFL regular season, to keep him around. That's just an educated guess on the way he looked last year when he had to replace Tom Brady at the beginning of last season, 2016, before he got hurt and was replaced by Jacoby Brissett himself. The way he looked was extremely good-looking for the future for any NFL team that had his rights. Last year, the Patriots. This year, the 49ers. I thought for sure the Patriots were going to keep him because Tom Brady is no spring chicken, and anything can happen. But we'll definitely see. Another trade that happened, Dwayne Brown, offensive lineman, starting left tackle for the Houston Texans, was traded to the Seattle Seahawks, who are in desperate need for a left tackle to protect Russell Wilson. If anything ever happened to Russell Wilson, the Seahawks also would be in big trouble, like the Patriots losing Brady. So that's good for them. I believe they gave up a late-round draft pick, and cornerback Jeremy Lane was originally going to be sent to Houston, which figured that they need defensive backfield help after you see that game that they lost, coincidentally, to the Seahawks on Sunday in Seattle. Almost like a first-half basketball game. The score was like 40-something to 39, something like that. Regardless, Jeremy Lane failed his physical. So he ended up going back to Seattle. Who knows what Seattle will do with him. And in turn, the Seahawks adjusted the deal with another draft pick to Houston. So Houston, unfortunately, doesn't get any help for their defensive backfield, and they lose their starting offensive left tackle. Now, as of today, that they have lost their starting quarterback, Watson, now they're going to have Tom Savage come back in, who was the starter at the very beginning of the season, started the first game, only played the first half against Jacksonville in Houston, which Jacksonville won easily at Houston, and was at that point Savage was replaced by Watson. So if I were Houston, I would be very concerned because they were certainly, up till this afternoon, the odds-on favorite to probably win that division. I think this opens things for Jacksonville to win that division at this point because not only have they lost, obviously, Watson, they've also lost Whitney Merciless and J.J. Watt, and those are three very, very, very important. Even Brian Cushing was suspended, unfortunately, indefinitely. All four very important players for the Texans, and we'll see if they are able to get over this hump. As a Viking fan, I can tell you, we've lost both our starting quarterback and the backup quarterback, technically, whatever order you want to put Sam Bradford and Teddy Bridgewater in, the number one and number two quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. We might be lucky and get Bridgewater back next week. And Case Keenum has played outstanding for us, and we are very fortunate to have him. Other teams may not be as lucky, and we'll see what happens in Houston. So it's a very interesting time when you think about, like me, I have to now replace Watson on my fantasy team. I'm in a dynasty league. I don't want to lose him, so I'm going to have to make some tough decisions on who I am going to lose on that team. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to have to carry him because, unfortunately, we don't have an injured reserve. Some fantasy teams on NFL.com, for example, they have an option to add two injured reserve spots. And I've already used, in one league, I've used one on Cook, Delvin Cook, the Vikings running back, and Carson, the Seahawks running back, who I feel has great potential. And they're both on my injured reserve. I didn't want to lose either one of them. And I don't think I can move either one of them off of it. Let's say I wanted to lose Carson, just drop him to put Watson on there. I don't think I'm able to do that. But we'll find out. I'll check on that. But keep in mind, another trade that should have happened, that didn't happen, of course, big news, was A.J. McCarron, the backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, being reunited with his old offensive coordinator, Hugh Jackson, in Cleveland. And this is going to give the Bengals the Browns' second-round pick and their third-round pick, which would have been unbelievable for Cincinnati, because Cincinnati's not having the best of years. They're not completely out of a playoff picture, but it'd be pretty hard for them to clinch a playoff spot at this point. And with those picks that they would have got for Cleveland, again, Cleveland is 0-8. They have not won a game at all, just like the 49ers being 0-8. So they could have the first or second overall pick in the NFL draft. Well, that means they'd have the 33rd or 34th pick in the second round that would have belonged to Cincinnati. And Cincinnati could have used that pick to parlay it back, maybe that second and third rounder that they got from Cleveland, to parlay themselves back in the tail end of the first round and help rebuild their franchise. It's unbelievable that the Browns were going to give up that much for A.J. McCarron. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you compare A.J. McCarron, what he's done, and he did look okay, and I think got the Bengals, into the play, won a game at the end of a regular season a few years back, and then started a playoff game, if I remember correctly, when the redhead rifle was out, Andy Dalton. But comparing that to Garoppolo, it's just unbelievable what the Browns are trying to do. And then they didn't even get to make the trade, which is unbelievable. And, it's kind of food for thought. If you think about it, what would have happened if the trade deadline was next Tuesday? Well, first of all, that trade would have went through for A.J. McCarron. He would be the new starting quarterback, let's face it, of the Cleveland Browns. But at that point, would Houston contacted Cleveland or vice versa and traded, let's say, Deshaun Kaiser or Hogan, I should say, from ex-Stanford quarterback, they're one of the backups for Cleveland, or Cody Kessler, who's the backup quarterback right now for the Cleveland Browns, to the Houston Texans. It could be that Deshaun Kaiser would have been traded to the Houston Texans. Because when I watched Deshaun Kaiser against the Vikings last week, I have to say I was very impressed by him and the team overall, to be honest with you. The team defeated itself But it took a lot longer than you would think for a 6-2 football team with everything in front of it. Have to win, must-win game. You've got to beat teams. When you're a playoff team or even a Super Bowl team, you have got to win games you should win, no matter where they're at. Their place, London, it doesn't matter. Against an 0-8 team. But that game was very close for about 2.5 to 3 quarters, and then the Vikings pulled away at the end. But I saw Deshaun Kaiser perform just fine. The Cleveland Browns did not lose that football game because of Deshaun Kaiser. They lost it because they had too many mental mistakes made by a running back fumbling, punt returner fumbling, missed field goal. They had some nice drives against the Vikings, including a 90-yard drive. So, even with A.J. McCarron, and yes, he does know his ex-coach's old offensive coordinator, Hugh Jackson's system and what he's trying to do, and maybe would have gotten him a victory. But the reality is, would A.J. McCarron be on this roster in another 1.5 to 2 years? I don't know. That's a lot. A second and a third round pick. That's a lot for A.J. McCarron. I'm just thinking, because at this point, if I were Cincinnati, if you could have done that, then why not trade the Browns' Andy Dalton and keep McCarron? My thoughts are, it's a possibility that Marvin Lewis may not be the coach of the Cincinnati Bengals next year. Perhaps there's a regime change there for the coaching staff. They might want to bring in their own quarterback. So if you got something, and you could even, with the Browns' logic, maybe you could have got their number 1 overall pick for Andy Dalton. I don't know. Or maybe more than just a second and third. My gut tells me that Hugh Jackson might have entertained something like that. The problem for Coach Jackson, unfortunately, and a lot of the Browns players and their fans, is that the Moneyball, as they're known, Sashi Brown, and the ownership group, Jimmy Haslam, and his wife, apparently, Dee Haslam, who had a meltdown because this trade didn't go through and made the Browns look really bad and a bad season, the bad last 20-some years since they returned to the National Football League. It just compounds problem after problem after problem for their franchise. And one thing that the Browns are going to need to do from now to, I would say, at least more than likely mid-January, when it's time to go to the Senior Bowl, for the coaches to go there, they need to decide who's really in charge of that franchise. And do they take a playbook out of the Buffalo, of what happened with the Buffalo? Do they take a page, I'll get it right, do they take a page out of the playbook of the Buffalo Bills and their new coach, Sean McDermott, and get rid of the general manager that was there and bring in his own guy, kind of like an old Bill Parcells situation, where Hugh Jackson decides who the GM is going to be, obviously getting rid of Moneyball. That doesn't look good and not working, and just going that route. I have a gut feeling that may be where they go. Unless the Brown players totally quit on Jackson and are giving up 51-0 losses, not even trying, then I would say that maybe a coaching change might happen. But again, then again, too, the owner has ruined that. Who's going to coach there? He's fired so many coaches, nobody's going to take them seriously as for the hiring process, because, you wouldn't, if you're a coach and you have a family, move your family there, what's going to happen? You're going to be fired in a couple of years because you're not winning. I know that in the name of the game is to win football games, but the cupboard is bare there. And I just think, I think Jackson needs some more time, at least a few more years, and then go from there. But I don't think Moneyball is working at all. I think they need a Bill Polian, is what they need, to calm people down, get the players that's needed, stay out of the coach's way, and for the owner to stay out of everyone's way, especially your wife. You need to knock that off. That's got to go. I'm trying to think of any other trades. You have Kelvin Benjamin, wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers, be traded to the Buffalo Bills. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it works for both teams. Carolina, I think when we go all the way back, let's start with this. I think when we go all the way back with Carolina to the NFL draft. Christian McCaffrey, he may one day surprise me. He may be a rich man's Adam Thielen type. I think they made a huge, huge, huge mistake passing on Dalvin Cook. If they would have had Dalvin Cook, along with Cam Newton, Greg Olsen, and Benjamin, I think some of these games that the Panthers have lost, they would have won going away. Because right now, even though they got McCaffrey, they still don't have a running game. That's not his fault. I just don't think he's an every down NFL back. Now, I think he could be a special player if you put him in the slot, let him do kind of like a rover, kind of like a new Cordell Stewart, a new Slash. But he's not he's not Adrian Peterson, and he's not going to be. So that to me was a huge miscalculation. And there may be a coaching change there, as crazy as it sounds. I don't know anybody who could do better than Ron Rivera there right now. But again, the general manager that's there, remember the old general manager got blown out at the beginning of the season. And they have a new one there, Marty Herney. And who knows? I think he just signed a contract extension. And who knows if he's going to want to really keep Ron Rivera. Who knows? I think there's definitely going to be an offensive coordinator change. Mike Shula will be gone, and somebody else will be brought in, hot young assistant on some team that's doing pretty good right now. But we'll see. Again, this is part one. Tonight's game, the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. The Jets are a surprise team. They are an absolute surprise team. Have been playing as well as they've been playing. McCown, the quarterback. They've got a bunch of unknown guys, running back and wide receiver. You could definitely use one of them tonight. And even their defense, in a way, I think it's got something to prove. The Buffalo Bills, if you don't have them and you're looking for a quarterback and you're able to get them, Tyrod Taylor, I think is a great pickup. I'll be frank with you, I didn't put much stock in him at all. And he's played his butt off. LaShawn McCoy, getting up there in years. He had a good game last week. Can he repeat it this week? We'll see. The wide receiver they just picked up from Carolina, Benjamin, he's not playing tonight. I didn't think he would be. It's a short week. He just got traded there a day and a half ago. So he's not playing. But that defense on Buffalo, they are definitely taking after their head coach. And kind of like a Carolina Panthers AFC team, so to speak. I would expect a Buffalo victory tonight, maybe 24-14 over the Jets. We'll see. Buffalo defense, Tyrod Taylor, definitely get them. Charles Clay, if he's playing, I haven't heard yet. As a tight end for the Bills, get him. For the Jets, if you had to, you could pick up some of the skill players, but for the most part, again, I think it's going to be a Buffalo evening. Okay, guys and ladies, good luck this week, and I'll be back with part two in a couple of days. I'm sorry about last week. I wasn't able to upload a part two. Too many things going on, and this is kind of a trial season. When we get into next year, the off season, I have many different things planned to make things a little bit more concise, so bear with me. Please like or comment. Any comments, even if they're terrible, and that's fine. But this is a trial year, and next year we'll really be into it, 2018 forward. All right, Skol Vikes. Bye.